Well, let me once again welcome you to the conversation segment of the Signature Show. You can see the papers in my hands because it is a serious issue that we want to discuss this afternoon. And I intend to be particular and specific, no guessing. That's why I'm holding the document in my hand. And this afternoon, we are going to be looking at a research that began in May of 2021, which result is now trending in the Nigerian media. And that research was done by the Council on Foreign Relations, CFR, and the Harvard Business School, all in the United States. And they concluded that Nigeria as a nation had reached a point of no return. I'm reading, showing all the signs of a failed state. Now, to show you that this is serious, this report was released through the senior fellow and former U.S. ambassador to Nigeria, John Campbell, and Mr. Robert Rodberg, who is the founder director, Harvard Kennedy School's program on intrastate conflict and President Emeritus, World Peace Foundation, and said that Nigeria is currently in its final phase from which it would eventually collapse. I'm reading it so that I'm not adding and I'm not subtracting. And this afternoon, I'm having a conversation with Tope Fasua. Tope Fasua was the presidential candidate of the Nigeria Abundant Renewal Party in the 2019 presidential election. And if he had become the president, these issues would have been on his table. Tope, you're welcome to the conversation.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Tope, you can see that I'm holding a paper because of the seriousness attached to this development. That Nigeria is in the final throes of death. And let me repeat what I've said. It is at a point of no return, all showing all the signs of a failed nation. Are you worried? Are you surprised by this?
Yes, that's frightening. That's frightening, especially coming from that group and from those kind of people who are intelligence people, you know. However, when I was researching a bit about this, I saw that a statement was made in 2014 that Nigeria was a failed state as well. And we've managed to hold on to this point. However, things have probably got worse now. So it's very worrisome. And the use, the choice of language is equally very, very frightening when you say point of no return. So when you look at why would they say a country is failed, a country is termed to be weak and failed when it has lost control of its territorial, if you like, integrity, where it can no longer protect its territory and where the state has actually lost the monopoly of the use of force in maintaining law and order in a country where people, different entities are going around with guns and doing whatever they can. And I think, I'm hoping that the reason why the CFR has put it this way is because, you know, they're looking at the indices and they're looking at the occurrences of Boko Haram, you know, banditry, kidnappers, all sorts of elements, including secessionists, you know, right, around the country. So maybe, now, if that's the case, okay, if that's the case, then I could say, well, yeah, good leadership, strong leadership, a bit of, you know, morphine and storming within the country, we may still be able to retrieve the country. If there's more than is obvious that they have seen and put together, then I'm afraid we'll probably just wait until the requiem mass for the country is sung and said. You know, however, also I want to put it quickly that Sometimes, though, I have issues with John Campbell because he has sort of made a lot of heavy weather about Nigeria, and I wonder why is Nigeria so important to John Campbell in the first place? And because he's written 2 books on Nigeria. I'm sure he's been to other countries as well. I'm hoping that he's interested in Nigeria for altruistic reasons. Maybe he loves the people here or something. I don't know, because I believe that a lot of his writings are about Nigeria, even more than Nigerians are interested in Nigeria is interested. So to that, however, the verdict is damning. I hope we're able to dissect why they have done this.
Let me cite 2 Nigerians. First, let me cite the former Chief Security Advisor of former military head of state, General Abacha, Hamza. He did say in a clip that is also viral that certain interests outside of Nigeria, certain Western interests, are keen on undermining the stability of the country. In fact, they are prepared to work towards a dismemberment. And that it was when Abacha realized this and was working towards it, towards stopping it, that he became an enemy of those forces, among whom were those responsible for his death. Again, only last week, the National Security Advisor, General Mongono, did say to TVC on tape that there are people who are making capital out of insecurity. And he was particular about kidnapping and banditry, both of which are contributing as indices for this research to come to its conclusion. If the Nigerian establishment is conscious, knows for fact that there are interests external to Nigeria working for the dismemberment of Nigeria, if Nigerian establishment knows for fact there are internal interests making capital out of Nigeria's instability, what have they done and what ought they to do?
Thank you very much. I think I would easily agree with Monguno that there are internal forces and perhaps external forces that are benefiting from this banditry, kidnapping. In fact, the kidnapping thing is a little bit more easier to understand. In many of those cases, apart from highway hijacking and kidnapping, most of the other ones where they come to people's homes, there's always an inside and simple police case. And so all of a sudden, all the armed robbers that used to disturb Nigeria seem to be on leave, and what we're seeing now is they've moved into kidnapping where you can get some good money. And a few of the people that have been caught, you hear, oh, well, we shared 10 million. That's some good money. It's better than robbing a bank, fortunately. So that one is a police issue, and usually the police, they know the gangs. Police knows the gang. They have informants everywhere. If the serious case happens and police wants to solve it, they do that. For banditry, is a different dynamics. We're just hearing recently about how, for example, some Bush Fulani people seem to be angry with Nigeria for what reason I don't know. And the rhetoric I've heard from people like Gumi, and who else was that? Oh, we need to educate Yakatsai. I was reading something about Yakatsai, an interview from Tanko Yakatsai this morning, that we need to educate these people. We need to use the same kind of strategy that Yaradua used for the Niger Delta. However, when you look at the two together, these guys are not Niger Delta people. Niger Delta boys did not just go to villages of Niger Delta to kill 40, 50 people, children, and burn down the place. What's going on? So they know more. the Yakasais and the Gumis and this other guy that was NHIS DG, these guys know more, and there's a bit of history that the rest of us have to learn. Okay, so history is very important. You look at the place like Sokoto, Katsina, there was a bit of slave trading that happened around then. There may be fallouts historically that we're not aware of. Why Fulanis from West Africa into North Africa, into Sudan, will come to Nigeria to disturb us, to kill our people, to make incursions all through Nigeria. They're not going to Ghana in the same way. They're not going to Cameroon the same way. They're not going to Togo or Benin Republic the same way to disturb them. These countries I've mentioned, Ghana, Benin, Togo, were carved out in the same way as Nigeria was carved out from north to south. Okay, they have Fulanis in their north and Hausas in their north. And then you come down, you have other tribes, like we have Yorubas and Igbos. You know, so the same thing. So why are they disturbing us? What do we owe them? So now that's as far as kidnapping and banditry is concerned. Now, so I agree with Monguno that you know, people are benefiting. I think the kidnapping thing is a huge racket. The sponsors, when they catch some of the perpetrators, you see them looking very scroungy and all of that. As pertains to Boko Haram, I want to believe that, of course, when they catch some of them, you see how scroungy and underfed they look. I think some mind control drugs are involved that people can take and then go and kill as many people as possible. I think there may be a population decimation agenda somewhere there. And I don't know how it's been driven. I've seen where these guys line people up by the pit and just slice people's necks and throw them away and so on. So that's that. However, I don't quite agree with Mustafa. I could have maybe some years back, but no, not anymore. Because every theory and thesis is subject to test. And time is a good way of testing these theses. Now, so if you say that the U.S. wants to destroy Nigeria or Western since Abacha died in 1998, and up to now they can't do it, then that means you should look elsewhere. That means that whatever plot it is actually not quite efficient because the country is still together. If they've taken such a long view of the strategy and is seeming like, you know, it's so gradual. The United States or the Western countries I know, they don't do things gradually. They move with precision. When they want to take you out, they take you out. If they could actually cause wars in this country and make us go against each other, they would have. So that theory for me will no longer serve.
So what could be accountable for a situation that now gives these two institutions kind of a rational basis for coming to the conclusion that Nigeria has failed?
Exactly. So as I said in the beginning, the measurement of failed nations is loss of control of firearms, of force, the use of force, brutal force in ensuring societal you know, cohesion, as it were. And Nigeria seems to have lost it, especially under this government. Under Jonathan, yes, it was beginning to come. Under Obasanjo, we didn't see that as much. There were problems in the Niger Delta. We know what he did in Hodi, in Zakibiam, and co. You used military force, took them down. And of course, we used to have some problems around Jos under Obasanjo and co. And when Yar'Adua came, yes, some of the Jos problems sort of abated. Then what did he do with the Niger Delta? You know, I remember in 2008, Yar'Adua was in the UK to see Gordon Brown, and Gordon Brown, they were trying to sign a deal of $350 million to buy some ammunition from the UK. It's still online on BBC, it was reported. And of course, Yar'Adua's demurred. And I know that they didn't quite forgive him for that because he was supposed to use those ammunitions to take them out in the Niger Delta. He came back, and of course, he was already beginning to feel weak. We called those boys, we saw them, the Tompolos, the Boy Loaf, and all of that, Atake Tom, who's a king somewhere in River State today, and they were weeping in Aso Road, and nobody had ever invited them to those places. And he tried to do something for them. Of course, we know the issues that in spite of those interventions, Niger Delta is still not developed. A lot of those guys who were giving all those monies became big men. They bought houses abroad. I'm not sure they even went back and invested in their own hometown. All right, so all of that failed. You know, so, but what we have, and of course, in the Jonathan time, we saw what they called Boko Haram. Remember that it was Yar'Adua that moved against Mohammed Yusuf, the founder of Boko Haram. Maybe I believe on intelligence that that thing was going to grow bigger than what we ever knew.
It was going to be.
And as at that time, these guys were running around places in Maiduguri, burning police stations and so on. But hey, it became a national, international phenomenon, put Nigeria slam bang in the list of terrorist countries where we never thought we could ever be. Yeah. However, what we're seeing now is Jonathan is gone. Yeah, Buhari is here. Who rode in on a rhetoric of security and being a former general who could tackle everything. But he seems to be losing more control. I mean, hey, we can't travel from here to Kaduna by road. We go by train, we're afraid. Okay? Vast parts of the country seem to be under control of bandits. And we seem not to be able to do anything about it. So if we cannot organize our intelligence to protect our territory, then we are in trouble. And Nigeria has about, my estimation, about 8,000 kilometers of perimeter border to worry about, from sea down south to Benin Republic, to Niger, to Chad, to Cameroon, you know, on that side, and so on. You know, you know, when people say, oh, the country is in trouble, there are no jobs, I say, well, you know, it is a wise country. If you had to post human beings to guard all of that territory, you will. A wise country, that's the first thing you will do. Because without that peace, okay, there's no business that can be done in the country, and it comes back to you. So I don't know why. I think that our governments have not, they are not ready to shell out the kind of investment. It's
we need
an investment.
So why this report was trending about 3 weeks ago and it became a major conversation in social media. Former President Goodluck Jonathan said that the 2014 National Conference, part of its aim was to address those factors that were tending towards a divided Nigeria and a likely failing Nigeria. Is Buhari wise to allow that document that could provide some answers to the very reasons why the world is saying we are collapsing? Is he wise to have left it there? Or should he look at it again?
Unfortunately, if you psychoanalyze General Buhari, you probably will see that he's a bit disdainful as a human being, you know, and some of this thing is what translates, you know, as a leader, you can't be a good leader when you're disdainful. However, it is said that, you know, passion is the sin of youth, pride is the sin of middle age, and prejudice is the sin of old age, all right? At his age, being an old person, he's quite prejudiced, and so he came around judging Jonathan, and when they asked him about that report, he said, well, he's not even going to look at it. You know, why wouldn't you? You know, so if you sincerely wanted a country that was united and you wanted to take that country from point A to point B positively, every information that you could use, you should use. And that's what I said. Like, but they came with the idea that they were superstars. He came having an idea that he was a superstar. He could do it alone. He doesn't need anybody. He put everybody down. And that's the results we're getting today. Because yes, it is true that people were agitating, like we usually do in Nigeria. We would always agitate, and of course they formed that conference. Of course, I have my issues with the conference, especially the fact that if you look at our conferences in this country, the same elements have been going there since 1969, except they are dead. So some people have actually positioned themselves as permanent conference attendants on Nigeria, constitutional conference attendants on Nigeria. The dynamism that needed to be seen wasn't very much. Of course, people will also complain that, oh, well, how can you have a conference where you have a sitting National Assembly which should make the laws? But at least Jonathan tried to get people to speak, and people actually spoke and aired their views about things and what have you. So, yes, Buhari ought to have used it. There will always be content. Now, so if you're running a government based on just your superstardom, or you want to run a government based on, if you like, intellectualism, using knowledge, you know, then you would understand that you have to first of all have humility knowing that the knowledge that you need may not certainly come from you. Yes, you have to get it elsewhere. So when people sit down, and we had some very top people in that conference, when they sit down for long and do all that work and put those kind of materials together, there certainly will be something that can be used. I also blame Jonathan, okay? I also blame him because he could have actioned some.
Indeed, he should have.
You know, I don't know why. See, that's it. When people think, see, the thing about running for and being a president anywhere, and especially in this country, is people don't understand. You see, you have to be dead to yourself. You have to forget about your own ego and all of that. You have to know that you have a country to rescue, all right? The first thing you do, of course, you know, I have this theory that, look, nobody can be president of Nigeria without the say-so of the Western nations, who are always the big brother watching everywhere. Now they seem to be panicking over China all over the place, going around trying to demarket China and all that stuff. I believe that those guys are very powerful, but you have to know that when you're running for president in this country, you signed your own death warrant, whatever it takes, but you have to jump into it. If it's 6 months or 1 year you spend doing it, this country needs saving. For as long as we don't find a leader that can actually unite the country and do things that are beyond politics and beyond themselves to bring the country together, we're going to have this, you know, centrifugal force of unraveling, you know, why, and this is why these guys have written that Nigeria is beyond the point of no return.
There are two issues again I want to bring up. The first is one of the indices they cited was the growing population of the poor in Nigeria. Poor, resentful of the system, angry, resentful of the system, and uncooperative. Now, if the population of the poor and angry keeps increasing in this number, is that prediction not likely to come true?
You're right. Yeah, well, you know, on the face of it, so you pointed, it's probably a chicken and egg situation. Which started first? Do we have all these poor people, and therefore we started having, you know, crime on the streets? Or is it? How did we create them by our own failure and all? So, but it is true. You know, poor, uncooperative. In fact, because they're poor, they can't listen to anything else. Nigeria has a huge income gap, you know, where we know a few people are very, very rich, but majority are poor. Number one. Number two is we haven't actually started to use our resources the way we should. So when we talk about resources in this country, we think about crude oil and what do you have in the ground. You see ethnic groups go around and say, we have so much resources on that. No, that's not your resource.
Human capital.
Human capital. So when you have 15 million children on the streets, and you know how many millions are begging, and government is giving them 5,000 for, you know, that means you're wasting several lifetimes. So the person who would actually turn that around would be someone who would stand his ground and say, no, we need to make our people more productive. There's work to be done. Look, I mentioned it, security alone, guarding your perimeter, making sure nobody just comes in anyhow. The reason why you have, if you like, Fulani herders or whatever, kidnapping people in Ekiti, even though, of course, Ekiti people also kidnap each other and so on. But kidnapping all the way down to Ekiti is because of the porousness of it all. Nigeria has become a joke. And in fact, compared to other West African countries, these criminal elements know that Nigeria is a joke. It's the place you go. You don't go to Benin Republic like, you don't go to Togo like that. You don't go to Ghana like that. You know, you go to Nigeria. It's a place where they are not serious with their territory. They're not serious with themselves. The guys in government are busy, like Jetson Buhari is buying Mercedes-Benz Maybach upon Maybach, state of the art. Are you kidding me? You know, a country where people should be, the leaders should have hunkered down now, like I said earlier, you know, we should be in that state of mourning, in leadership. You call a moratorium for all of those enjoyments that you enjoy. All right, you look at the budget for this year in the villa, it's all about all the largesse, you know, 3 million naira eating every day and all of that. I mean, hey. So what have you? So we have what it takes. We're not using our resources properly, and that's why we have all of these issues.
The final word on this matter. Let me read from here again. It says that a nation had reached a point of no return, showing all signs of a failed state. Point of no return. What can we do to return?
Yes, well, I think first of all, the way things are, we need new leadership. All right, I'm sorry. Buhari can no longer do this in 1.5 years or 1 year or 6 months before the politicking starts. No longer, they can't. They can't. Unfortunately, see, the amount of investment that will be needed, the amount of logistics to turn around the situations, okay, to get the people to be cooperative. More and more people now say, look, I'm first of all for my tribe. I don't care about this Nigeria. You know, I'm a tribesman. And people, I mean, you have the Oodua Republic trying to go, you have the IPOB trying to go and all of that. How do you solve that problem when you've ignored them with disdain for too long? So we need new leadership. How do you solve the problem of arms in the hands of the wrong people, you know, within 6 months or 1 year? How can you? You know, how do you police this country? How do you defend the territorial integrity of this country? You know, how do you ensure that, you know, the state goes back to retaining? There are places in this country now where the police can no longer show their face. And then you have to have army there, and even the army is feeling very threatened. And sometimes they get taken out from time to time. So this government can't do it anymore. So we need the leadership. But if we had a new leadership, we need a leadership that is communicative, okay, that is humble. Because at the end of the day, the stupidity, I'm sorry to use that word, of what we have seen on ground is because some people felt they can do it alone. Superstardom does not work. So you need a communicative leadership that can speak to the people and get their buy-in and get their assistance, because the people are the ones that will build their country. The people are the ones that will clean their country. Nigeria is a typical case of broken windows theory. They say on the streets, when somebody breaks a window on a house and nobody fixes it, before you know it, some other yobs will come and break more windows. Before you know it, they start to sell drugs on that street and do prostitution on that street. Typical. So when the country started to get all these problems, leaderships were distracted. Everybody was pursuing what they could benefit and eat and steal and keep abroad and, you know, self-aggrandize and buy mansions and cars and women and send their children to the best schools, and nobody was, and it's still like that. So who is that leader that's going to be able to bring everybody to the round table and say, hey, National Assembly, enough of all of these things you're doing. We've got a country to save. Okay, look, what are we cutting? Okay, you know, how are we now? Okay, then they look at religion and say, come, I know religion says this, I know your culture says this, but hey, you know, we can't continue like this. We cannot continue like this. You know, we need to bring everybody to the center. I mean, you go to even Southwest where I'm from, some of the leaders, some of the traditional leaders will defend even the Yahoo problems that we're having, where young boys are even kidnapping people for ritual purposes in many places in the Southwest as we speak. So how do you need to be communicative, you need to be humble, you need to draw out the people, you need to be approachable. All right, you have to have a very broad mind to be able to do that. Then you need to be firm. Okay, if a leader can no longer control his troops, is he still a leader? So can we control our troops? Can the president control his troops in this country? If we give marching orders, for how long did it take President Buhari to change the service chiefs? People kept complaining. I mean, already things are going down and down and down, and he kept on to those people. Held on to those people for 6 years. You know, we've never seen such a static government. But hey, the issue is not with Buhari. As far as I'm concerned, it's done. It's gone. So going forward, we need a leader that is genuine, that is sincere, that is ready to spend 1 year. And in 1 year, you're going to make some indelible changes in this country, okay, that will set this country. You don't have to do it all. Forget yourself. Forget your name. You know, you have to think about why people go into leadership in the first place. If it's, most people go into leadership, say, it was Tokpe that was there. Oh my God, the guy is great. Tokpe, paint his name like Saddam Hussein. They begin to erect his statues everywhere. That's not what we need. All right? So, however, again, another thing that could help, apart from that leadership at that level, is the leadership that is provided by people who are not, don't have a title, the leadership without title. People like me, people like you, in what you do. Because again, I've almost got to the point of giving up on democracy as a government that could help us in this country. I'm beginning to think in terms of elite consensus, people offering up whatever it is they can to save themselves. Because, hey, if we suddenly all became refugees in this country, where would we go to? Even if we weren't refugees, for those of us people who have traveled abroad to remain abroad, all of them, they are complaining. And the reason why they complain every day, they wake up and say, oh, this is your country. If not because of this, our leaders, I won't be here. Look at what I'm suffering here. In fact, let's break that country. And of course, the option of breaking the country is going to be also very problematic. Very problematic because, for example, how do you share assets? How do you maintain harmony? Harmony. And how do you maintain harmony among the people who would have then created their own different countries and gone in different places? How do you begin to migrate people from where they used to live to where they now need to live? And it's going to be really messy. So intelligence, okay? Intelligence, humility, the grace of God to be able to do the right thing and to make the right changes is what I believe that we need in this country. And of course, let everybody know. Look, I know people who are very rich in this country, but they still feel very dissatisfied. What they don't, some of them don't know, is that the little that God has given them, which is much, there's a time when you invest it back in your country to make your country great. Andrew Carnegie said that only a foolish man will not die broke. Okay? Be ready to die broke. Use everything you have for your country and get that greatness and move on. So it's going to be everybody working together. We need patriots. Patriotism is key. Samuel Johnson used to say patriotism is the last refuge of the scoundrel. Because in that time, he being a member of parliament in Britain, they were getting people like Patrick Henry and co in the US who organized revolution against them and
patriots.
And they were patriots. So patriotism is key, my brother. It's very important. We can't have non-patriots run the country who don't care about the country. You have to understand the reason why people have countries in the first place. Remember, everything comes from what Thomas Hobbes described and said that there was a time when life was nasty, brutish, and short, where there was no people, every property was everybody's property. So there's a banana here, you are trying to take it, I club you on the head, I say, it's my property. How is it your property? Nobody knows. It's the state that defines what is what's property. These premises belong to someone. The state says it belongs to. It's a document showing that it belongs to someone. When someone invests in it, it's investment. That is modernization. That is civilization. That civilization is what we're regressing as a people now. Losing territories, anybody doing anything they want and all of that. So Thomas Hobbes said that there was that time, but the people came together to say, hey, we can't keep living like this. In contrary to the ideas of Ayn Rand, which I've read recently, which she emphasizes individualism and all of that. Forget it. Individualism is not the next step. The next step for humanity is togetherness. Connectivism, togetherness, borderlessness, So that was at that time. And the people came together and said, come, let us invest our right to defend ourselves in the states so that when you offend me as my brother, I'll take it to the court. I will not just stab you and keep, because at the end of the day, if you keep doing like that, you'll have corpses all over the place and all of that. And that was how society started to grow. I think that we need to go back to the knowledge of why we are here, why we need a country in the first place, and how countries become great. How do countries become great? The sheer effort, sometimes the investment of time, of energy, of patriotism that goes into making a country great. I believe that we can still make this country work. The challenges are daunting, Consider the children out of school alone is enough. It's enough. 15 million of them is enough.
It needs to be accomplished.
It needs to be accomplished. So I wish that we will get to a point, when we were doing a bit of business law, they talk about the lucid interval. Even a mental person has maybe 10 minutes a day that he thinks right. For normality, we need to come to that lucid interval where we would all come say, let's calm down. This thing we are pursuing, what exactly? Those who have had, can you invest back? Look, because again, paint the picture for them and say, look at the danger. In Somalia, there were people who were attorney generals lined up with boats as refugees, trying to collect small couscous to eat. Attorney generals of the country. You know what I'm saying? When this thing catches you, go to Liberia, the same thing. then it catches you in the wrong side. So hey, look at us. I mean, look at this country. Every morning I wake up, I come out of my house. I just stare at the skies, breathe the air. My friends in London now talk about how cold it is. We don't know what God has given us. You know, let me tell you what, at the end of the day, my people say it is happiness that kills people, not suffering. People are suffering and laboring hard. They seem to be going on. When somebody is overjoyed, his father gives him a Ferrari. He begins to speed around the bush and kills himself. Happiness is killing us in Nigeria.
God is so gracious to us.
Oh my God.
That we're not even doing anything.
I'm telling you, is it our vegetation? One day, a staff of mine, a former staff of mine in London, came in, Saeed, you know, I had to pick him about 10 years ago, picked him at the airport. So he's an Indian. So he came in with one Indian lady, American Indian lady, who also flew in from somewhere, I don't know. And when we were driving into Abuja, she was shocked. She was just like, wow, wow. So why? He said, well, the idea of Nigeria she had was, you know, it was like everywhere was a desert. We didn't even have an idea of how to plant a tree. So she was shocked that there was so much lusciousness, even in Abuja. Of course, we're not that organized, but look, these are natural things that are occurring. So we don't know the value of what we have. We are not having weather of sub-zero, where you have to put heater. My friend in London told me, I called him 2 days ago, he's wearing 5 clothes, 5 trousers, 5 shirts, with cardigan, and all of that, covering his head. Look at us here. Every day is summer. So why won't we mess it up?
Well, let every day be a summer.
Hopefully. Thank you.
Yes. Now, you know that this is a serious matter. And in the past couple of minutes, I've been talking with Tokwe. There'll be a second conversation on this matter. We can't afford to live under a prophecy that comes true after we have been told of it. The Igbos have a saying that a war foretold does not claim the cripple, because been told, and so he escapes in advance of the war. We have been told that we're almost at the point of no return. We must return ourselves. And Tokwe says, a good leadership, collectivism, patriotism, no better country you soon realize than this one. If you are allowed to unravel, it will not be in our interest. Tokwe, thank you very much for being thoughtful for this country.
You're welcome. Thank you, sir.
Let's keep talking. Let's keep conversing. It never ends. Good afternoon.